So what do you think is going to happen to Europe with this? I mean, for one, do you think they're serious about this kind of new defense force, whatever the hell von der Leyen is talking about, especially with this notion? And the reason why I ask this is because, as you pointed out, it seems that this idea that we're in a multipolar world is becoming normalized. It's becoming understood. And if Europe sees what Trump is doing, and he sees that, okay, this kind of wing of the Republican Party has decided we're in a multipolar world and America is going to go its own way to protect its own interests, which Canada, Greenland, Panama Canal, meaning this is why Trump is focusing on these items in regards to this kind of super continent that he kind of wants to create for America's own security and America's own interests. If Europe sees that and they see that Donald Trump is this kind of new face of the Republican Party going forward, what are they to do with that? I guess that's my point, right? They've said this more than once. Macron has come out and said we need this, our own European security. But is this the moment where they've come to this realization that America, even after Trump, will most likely still have some elements of Trumpism that are in it? And that element of Trumpism may be America's looking out for America's interests. We're not getting into these foreign entanglements in Europe, in which case, from a European point of view, that they do on some level, whatever that is, need to come up with some kind of European defense force separate from NATO. Or is this still?
Well, I think it's coming to that, and I think it's evolving toward that. And if van der Linden is even voicing it openly, then that's an acknowledgement that even the EU believes that may be the way to go. And then let them fight over who's going to be in charge. The United States, it's not the U.S. problem. If they want to go at it and pick fights with Russia, they're on their own. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what's been going on. And there's no reason to pick a fight with Russia.
No,
Russia has the fact that it is involved now in the creation of a multipolar world suggests something interesting. And that is that the countries that want to belong to this multipolar world do not want to see any one country take over others like Germany did in World War II. And I think that's been a restraining factor that they don't, particularly the global South countries that are into it, the multipolar world order for economic development purposes, not to give countries such as Russia or China a green card, a go card to conquer other lands. No, that's not what they want. They want there's a recognition of the sovereignty of countries and the UN, but they need reform in order to bring in the wishes of these developing countries. And there has never been, with the rise of the multipolar world order, there's never been it's always been declared to be not anti-Western, but more inclusive, but to be more inclusive with a recognition that they are essential, but reform them. And that's coming out of Russia, out of China. And you see it all the time now, and everything needs to be based upon on international law. And that's what they're sticking with. And so the notion of the type of warfare that we've been planning using a NATO, creating a NATO, is based upon yesterday's wars and day before yesterday's wars. Because they're given how fast a war could go if you started using hypersonics, they wouldn't last very long, and they'd be totally destructive. And that's the problem. So how do you project? You need a brain trust that can come and spend days and weeks pondering this as to the direction, and come up with an analysis that lays out the path for the future. And I'm not seeing that happen. Yeah, we do war games, but that's based upon the current realities and old technologies, not on futures and what's needed. We need a brain trust within the Pentagon. And I don't think Hegseth is capable of that. That's why he needs to get the people with the brains to come up with that and give it that kind of analysis. And based upon that, you start planning your budgets and what technologies are going to be required and where you need to go with it in the future. So we need to project. And you see this with Putin. I mean, he's always six moves ahead, or at least 3 moves ahead on the chessboard. And yet, given the fact that I think U.S. hegemony is now obsolete,
Mhm.
I think it's a recognition now by Trump, especially in the belief of the creation and reality of a multipolar world order. And we need to accommodate and adjust our own strategic interests and values accordingly. And I think that's the direction we're going to go.
And I guess the last question is, do you see that happening? This kind of adjustment of our own values, our own ideas as we move forward, if indeed the objective is to get some kind of settlement and let's say resolution to many of the world's issues in regards to this kind of thing of war.
We're going to have to, if we want to continue surviving as a nation, and to be involved in progress and bringing on greater stability in the world. It's absolutely essential, because we cannot be the antagonist in the world. Right now, we're really isolated. That's why you're seeing the creation of a multipolar world order in response to Western hegemony, especially U.S. The rules, we're supposed to be in charge of the rules-based order. Well, we make the rules. If we make the rules, we can break the rules, and that's basically what we've been showing, especially during the Biden administration. Well, those days are over. These other countries are saying, wait a minute, we're not going to put up with that crap. We're moving on to something else. We're going to do something else. We'll create our own financial system and be able to get along quite well. For example, you have just today, it came out. Trump wants to put 25% tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum. Well, let me tell you something. They have come up, the fact that they are able to, the Chinese especially, have come up with ways to counter that. Agricultural goods. Well, if you don't want to buy, if you're going to put tariffs on U.S. exports of agriculture, the Chinese will just go to Brazil. The other countries now, and that they're all part of BRICS.
Yeah.
And they're all working together in harmony, and that's the beauty of that arrangement, as in terms of the creation of that multipolar world order. So I'm seeing this shift, and I think Donald Trump probably sees it in a macro way. But how do you pull together and change the direction of an entire country and orient that country to address these realities that are emerging in the future, and we need to be able to project those and be able to lay a foundation to deal with them, rather than having them come up and kick us in the ass. We've got to be ready. We've got to be able to project, and we need the brain power at the leadership level to project these kinds of things in the future, whether it's defense, economics, and that's part of working together with other nations, rather than always claiming that we are the exception. Not necessarily. We're not.
Michael Maloof, he is a former policy analyst and Office of Secretary of Defense, author, and regular contributing analyst on RT and other media outlets. He has nearly 30 years of federal service in the U.S. Department of Defense. Michael, my man, always appreciate talking to you. I really do.
Thanks for having me, Jamal.
You have a good one. Be safe.